Hey guys, it's Misty Buck, president of Miss Inc., and I want to welcome you back to a very merry Marketing Monday, seeing as we're in the middle of the holiday season right now, which I hope everything is going really well for you and that the holidays are treating you well and your family, and you're able to take some time in this crazy year to spend that time with your family and reflect a little bit. So before we get into all that, I actually have an awesome guest today. I have known this woman for many years, probably more than I even want to admit, but definitely at the start of my career, she was right there alongside me. Her name is Tina Menditto. Did I say Tino? Tina Menditto. And she is the founder of the Menditto Group, which is a PR agency. Tina is a PR pro. So for those of people who are always wondering, how do I get in newspapers? How do I get my name out there more? She is the person to help you with that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Tina introduce herself, and I'm going to get the watch party started on my phone.
Thanks, Misty. Hi, welcome. My name is Tina Menditto, and I'm the founder of the Menditto Group, which is my company. I have had this company, a boutique PR and marketing agency, for 13 and a half years, and we're based in South Miami, and I've been doing marketing and PR for, goodness, 25 years now, and it's been quite a ride. And obviously seeing the ups and downs of, I started the company in the middle of the 2007 recession. So, and fast forward 13 and a half years later, and here we are in the middle of a pandemic. So it's really, really interesting to see the ebbs and flows of the marketing and PR business, and how it's changed through the years, and also how I as a company have had to adapt through that and work with clients and work to meet their needs and during all the things that come at us. So that is what I do. A range of clients, like I said, in luxury brands and luxury market, but the clients that I've worked with include Rolls-Royce, the Ocean Air Seafood Room, Morton's the Steakhouse, Open Blue Aquaculture, Guy Harvey, the Miss Florida USA pageant, Planet Hollywood. It just kind of runs the gambit, which is really interesting. I started in kind of a niche field of real estate, and then it kind of morphed into entertainment and restaurant and sustainability, and now it's really a lot of luxury brands. So it's been really interesting, and I think maybe part of what we'll talk about today too is how PR is really going after what the client needs to accomplish, and kind of seeing the best ways to do that, and working within their budget and within their time frame, and putting all those parameters together to see how to best meet their needs. So that's what I do. So I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So thank you again for taking the time to be here. I know, we're right in the middle of the holidays, so lots of people are super busy. So I want to thank you for taking that time to be here today. Guys, if you have questions, by the way, as we go along, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll ask Tina the questions for you. She'll give her contact information later in case you want to reach out to her directly. But if you have any comments while we're live today, go ahead and put them in the comment feed here, and we will get those answered. So like Tina, I started my business in 2008. So we were really right in the middle of that recession. So how have you seen, Tina, over the years, how things are evolving for PR, especially as the digital landscape expands? Like what are you seeing out there, especially in the small business sector?
I think that's a great question. And actually, as we were kind of, I was looking forward to being here today, I thought, gosh, what is the one thing that I've really seen? And I think that's it, that the whole landscape of PR and marketing has changed drastically. I mean, back in my day, it was all about the print,
Right.
the printed media, community newspapers, the Miami Herald, those print media outlets where you go to tell your story. And so it was really all about knowing who the journalists are, getting to know them, crafting a story in such a way that that would interest them, and that they would make them want to write about it. There was a lot of journalists doing that. And so it was really about cutting through that and finding out, getting to know who they were, and getting to know their beat and researching all of what they wrote about. And so, fast forward now 13 and a half years forward, the print media is just one teeny tiny portion of the pie. I like to think of PR as a pie, right? And there's all these little slices. And so there's like the print media slice, and there's the community relations slice, and there's the social media, event management, logistics, marketing. So there's all these little pies to the pizza, whereas maybe 25 years ago, it was traditional marketing and PR, it was really the printed word. And so today it's digital. I mean, hence here we are. So,
Right.
it's all about getting your message out whatever way you can, but the print media has become a smaller portion of that pie. So
yeah, it's definitely interesting how things have changed from when we were first working together. And I think we were still faxing press releases at some point. Right. So it was like just these super crazy things. So that are very different than the way that we do things now. So what's one thing and speaking of all those different pieces of the pie, there's so much noise out there. There's so much competition, especially in that digital landscape. So what would you tell a small business owner? How would you help them cut through the noise? Like, what's the first thing that you look at to sort of help them get to get that message out?
So, I mean, that's the cool thing is each client is so individualized. So again, it used to be perhaps back in the day, we just want to get our, out there in the paper. We want to be on radio, TV. That's what we want. So now it's so specialized. It's really, I just worked on a client in collaboration with another PR firm. Rolls-Royce was the client. And so really our specific goal was completely logistics. It wasn't even media. It was working with the dealerships in each of the markets on the West Coast, in California, to make sure that the rollout of one of their new cars was up to snuff. And so that each of the dealerships worked within the parameters of the brand. And so I only say that because, my gosh, that was just one little piece of the puzzle, right? Logistics, which is, normally not something back in the day that, that would have been the primary goal of what we were doing for them. So it really, to go back to, so they're not a small business, but like a small business to just really pinpoint what it is that you are looking for. Is it to launch a brand? Is it to increase your bottom line? Is it to make a very specific announcement about, an award or a research project that you have data on? What is it that you need to let the world know about? And then our goal is to kind of ferret through that and say, okay, well, let's talk about the best ways that we can do that for you. I think it's a combination of digital. I think it's a combination of print, radio, and kind of tailor package a plan for that individual small business. So, and that's the fun part of what I like doing, is really working, because there's no any one cookie cutter client. Everybody has their very specific needs. And so the fun part is talking to them and saying, okay, let's what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish?
Right.
Because it's not like back in the day where it might have been just a blanket approach to PR. You write a release and you fax it out,
right.
or you send it out. That almost doesn't exist anymore. I mean, you still write press releases and pitches, but you need to be really specific about who your audience is and what your messaging is. And also, I would say, and this goes without saying, know who you're talking to, know who's writing the story, know who's covering it. And that's a challenge in today's market, because media has been slashed so much, because of budget and all these other things. But if you're a good PR person, you still keep up with that and know, who is writing what, who you need to talk to,
right.
That kind of thing. So,
right. And I think it's definitely so smart I love two things that you said. One is the integrated approach, because a lot of people, business owners I'll run into, and they'll sort of hone in on one area, and really, you don't really put all your eggs in one basket. Even if your budget isn't huge, you want to sort of be able to like test and tune different different pieces and see where you're really getting that response, and what is that response that you want, going back to what you were saying with goals. I think that is that's so smart. So and then the other piece, we talk a lot about not being cookie cutter, and what I love that you said about that is, people will come to me and they'll say like, oh, okay, well, I can hire this company online and they'll do this many social media posts for me a week, or this many blogs, or this many press releases, or whatever it might be. And they're going to charge me, it's like pennies. I mean, it's really, really cheap. But what's happening is they're probably using templates. You're not getting a customized approach. You're not getting strategy. Right. You're not getting all these different things. So I love that you brought that up about not being cookie cutter in that. So, and speaking of that, when you're looking at creating this diversified plan, what are some questions that you ask? Like, what are some questions that a small business owner, just right off, if they're not really sure, they haven't done PR or really any marketing at all, what are some questions that they should consider? I know we talked a little bit about audience, a little bit about goals. So what are some questions that they should consider that you would ask? So if you're having a first call with them, in other words, like what are some things?
I mean, my first call is kind of what I kind of already said which is, what are you looking to accomplish? And what's your time parameter in that? Mm-hmm. And really giving them a clear understanding of what PR is, because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between PR and marketing. Mm-hmm. And they're two very separate things, and media relations. And so, people might have an idea about what it is, but really not specifically. For example, I had a gentleman that I spoke with last week, an old friend, and he said, I think I need to, I might need your services. And I work with X company, but I'm looking to leave and start something different. And so I think I'd like to hire you to write a release about how I'm looking to leave and maybe start something different. Okay. And that kind of thing. And so I was, very, very, it was great because he didn't know what he didn't know. And I love that. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, that's not his profession. He's not a marketer and a PR person. I said, so that is fantastic. So the issue is you don't really have anything you're announcing, so you're still at the right company you're at. You're thinking of starting your own thing. You're thinking of being an entrepreneur in this other area, but you haven't done that yet. Mm-hmm. So really, there's no news. I mean, there just isn't. So, so I love it. That's amazing. And so, but the next step would be, once you make the jump, once you start your own company, once you move from company X to company Y, then we have something to talk about. That's news. So, and I appreciate that, because that's not their business. I mean, lawyers know what they do. Restaurateurs know what they do. They don't necessarily know PR and how to accomplish that. And so I appreciated the fact that he didn't know. He just didn't know that wasn't newsworthy, So that's what I like to do, is just counsel the client and say, now's not the time, but mm-hmm. but in 3 months, once you've done that, then we'll talk, and then this is what we can do, and that kind of thing. But back to your comment about what would the question be, I would say, what's your short-term goal? Okay. And then what's your long-term goal? Like, what do you want to accomplish in the first 3 months of working together? And what do you want to accomplish like in the next year of working together? And then we'll put together a really specific plan about how to help you do that. Mm-hmm. And we'll include all parts of the pie and that kind of thing. So yeah, I love that. And it's true. Like, sometimes I've had people come to me and they're like, oh, hey, I have this going on or that going on. And I'm like, okay, but that's not really news, but we can, you either find a way to sort of make it newsworthy by kind of coaching them along in the project sometimes, right? Like sometimes that ends up happening. Right. You kind of become a little bit of a business advisor sometimes to like find that hook. Right. Yeah. It's really fun. You can get really, really creative. Yeah. So, all right. So for those of us out there who don't know the difference between PR, marketing, and media relations, can you kind of run down those three and let everybody know once and for all, what is the difference? So I always kind of lump PR and media relations kind of into the same category-ish. Media is very specific. It's crafting a story. What is your announcement? What are you, what is the the story that you're looking to tell. And so the publicist does that, whether it's via a pitch or a press release. We are writing what the story is, and then we are pitching it very specifically to a media outlet, a media source, a journalist, a publication, TV, radio, that kind of thing. And so that's kind of tied into PR as well, because PR encompasses things like community relations and social media and all of that kind of thing. So whereas you have the initial release and the initial pitch, and that's true media relations, PR is kind of the entire vehicle to continue to tell your story. So you may start with getting the story, telling the story in the media via a publication and that kind of thing. But PR helps to tell the story. So different things going on in the community that you want to tap into to piggyback off the story that you're telling. Marketing is kind of its own beast, and a lot of people lump them together. Marketing, I think, is like an umbrella term where it covers, media relations, and public relations is underneath that, the umbrella of marketing. Marketing has a lot to do with budgets, balancing budgets, media buys, looking at like the entire pie at the top of the umbrella and saying, okay, how are we going to allocate our media dollars for this specific launch? What's our budget for that? How much of the budget is going to go to print media? How much is going to go to social media? How much is going to go to digital media? So it's kind of the umbrella that PR and media relation kind of goes under. And it, like I said, it is a lot of budgets and numbers. And I think people don't realize that. Also, I think people don't realize that PR, it's not just who you know and having lunch and that, those old concepts that used to be back in the day. It's strategic writing. You have to be a good writer to do PR. Yeah. And if you're not a writer, you hire writers, because really you need to catch someone, you need to catch the journalist's attention, and that's going to be via the press release or the pitch that you write. So it has to be well written. So
yeah, that's so true. That piece of content writing is just I think that's sort of at the top when you're looking at, okay, not just, not connections, yes, and knowledge, yes, but if someone can't nail your brand and your message, and they can't write it in a way that's interesting and fun, and sort of like take all the stuff that's going on in your brain and put it down on a paper, then that's probably not the right person to run your PR campaign, right? Because they have to be able to really decipher all those different pieces, right? And really kind of like pull what's really important here. So I know we've worked together on several projects like that before. So
I will say also, just why I'm thinking of it, I thought, and I wanted to say this because I know as like a younger PR person, there's a pressure. There's a pressure to produce for the client, just like any profession, and you have a pressure to produce. So with PR, it's to get the story. It's, whether it's on TV or print media, whatever. And a lot of times you don't have control over that. And people don't say that because it's icky to hear. You're paying someone to have control. So to not have control is like, well, wait, we're paying you to have control. But the reason I bring that up is because something that doing this so long has taught me is that, and I just want to counsel any, younger PR people that are listening, is that a lot of the time it's research and getting to know your source. I mean, I will say, and I did have that luxury being on my own for 13 years that I didn't have working for larger PR firms, the luxury of, taking time to get to know the journalist. I mean, I've said this in different speaking things that I've been at and such. There were times that I just met with journalists for 6 months and without asking them for anything. I would meet to have lunch with them. I would meet to see how their family is. We'd meet to talk. We'd meet before I ever pitched them the story. Now, not a lot of people have that luxury if you're working with a larger firm and, they're paying you to get that story in a week, or a month or whatever. But I say that because these are journalists that I can go back to now at any point in time, and they're not expecting anything from me. They know me, we're friends. And so when I have something to pitch them or they listen because, I spent 6 months not asking them for anything.
Mhm.
And so I just say that because I wanted to, if you're doing this for the long term, it's really a balance. You don't want to piss you don't piss people off.
Right.
We're all
Right.
human.
Right.
And I love how you've said before, Misty, we work with people we like working with.
Right.
Like, that's why you and I have worked together.
Yes.
People like working with people that are likable and that they like working with. And so if you're, constantly pushing something down someone's throat that either isn't news or it's not the right time or you just don't know how to do it properly, it's a turnoff that, that's closed. Like, that door is closed, and you don't want to ever do that because then you can't go back to that person,
Right. Right.
So I just say that because I wish someone had told me that. I learned that from doing this for so long, but I just wanted to kind of get that out there,
Yeah. So you definitely learn those things in the fire.
Yes.
Just kind of like being thrown in there and making those mistakes and being like, oh God. And there's so many little details too to think of. It's like, even like down to, I'll give an example. So we had, just really quickly before my next question. So just really taking the time to look at those details. And again, this is something that, your PR agent, your marketing person, whoever it might be, should really be on top of. And it comes through experience, and it comes through making these mistakes. So whether that's, this has happened to me, and especially in my younger part of my career, where we sent something to print and there was a mistake in there, and that actually ended up falling on us or on me because it wasn't like, and then so you have to sort of like pay for that on the client to like make good of it, right? Like that sort of happened in the beginning, or being really careful with details. Like like something that happened with one of our clients earlier this year. They wanted a shortened URL for a QR code for some things that they were putting out. Well, they didn't explain to us that was for print materials. So the QR code, the program that we use, it expired. And so they had all these print materials with this QR code. Luckily, we were able to go back in and pay to continue to use it and this and that. But it's like those kind of details that's why you hire people like us, because we take care of that. And with the experience, sort of make sure that those I's are dotted and those T's are crossed, even though every once in a while those little things will happen. Right. But at least we sort of have the experience to, okay, this is how we remedy this, right? So what are you seeing? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit right now. What are you seeing? Okay, we're making our way through the pandemic as best as we can. There was a lot of pivoting, we'll say, to use this term that has been like beat to death now, but there was a lot of like pivoting that occurred this year. So as we get ready to enter into 2021, what are some trends or things that you're seeing or that businesses should be on the lookout for in terms of their PR and navigating what continues to be a very difficult situation?
That is a great question. And you're not going to believe this, but I was just meeting with a friend of mine last week, and we were talking, and she's a lawyer. She's not a PR person, but we're friends forever. And she's a client. And she actually brought this up, and she said, Teen, you know what you need to be on the lookout for? I'm telling you right now, this is hot and you need to pay attention. I'm like, tell me. And she said, diversification marketing, diversity PR. And I knew what she was talking about, but I was, what are you talking about? And so she said, well, companies are hiring PR professionals to just handle talking about the pie, a very, very specific part of the media pie, which is diversity PR, which is working with companies to help them diversify their message, their platform, their staff, their employees, their client base.
Right.
And, I thought, wow, that is brilliant, and so it's funny you would ask that question. I might not have had an answer, 2 weeks ago, but I know companies like General Motors is doing that, and because I read about it, and so just so that your staff and that your clients and that your board of directors, everybody doesn't look the same, and that you've got people that look like the community. Doing different things for you, because that's what life looks like. It doesn't look like all one sort of person. So I thought that was just amazing advice. So that would be, I think, a trend that if people haven't thought of it yet, that's going to be kind of the thing we start seeing in 2021. And we've already seen it, not to talk politics, but in some of the presidential platforms that we're seeing is a lot of diversity in some things, cabinet members that are being selected and such. And so companies are doing the same thing.
Right.
So,
and I absolutely love that. I want to applaud that this is sort of where we are at today
Yay!
in our day and age, and that we are reaching this point, and not as necessarily a business tactic, like, oh, to sustain my business, I have to diversify, otherwise it's going to look bad. But in a way that we're thinking more of outside of ourselves, right? And you have to. And I think 2020 has been so beautiful for that, in terms of building that compassion. And we were talking last week about mindfulness and just sort of this inclusive piece of the puzzle, right? And just really beginning to think about that. I mean, I've even heard of such things, this is a while ago, but I've even heard of such things as sensitivity editors. And basically what they do, it's somebody that you hire just to read things that you write, to make sure that they don't like, that they don't set off any alarms, which, you do the best that you can. But again, I think if you're just operating from a place of being genuine, we've talked a lot in the past few weeks about this idea of empathetic marketing that's continuing to emerge and become more and more important. I keep going back to that Amazon Spotlight commercial, but things like that, where we're just really looking at just being human. I think that's what it comes down to. It's not the hard sale. It's just being human. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, these are basic things that I think we forget along the way, just because life is busy and we all have, deadlines and have to make a living and stuff like that. But it goes back to also what you like to say, Misty, is that, people like doing business with people they like.
Yes.
And that's just the truth of it. Be someone wants to be around, be someone that is honest and genuine. And it's funny. I love that you talk about that very specific, sensitivity training.
Yeah.
But I one thing that I will say is that I'm the first to say what I can't do, like, because I came, when you're young and stupid, you boast a lot and you say a lot of things that you can accomplish that you don't have any idea how you're going to do these things.
Right.
But when you're older, I do not have an issue with saying what I have no idea how I'm going to do that, but I do know someone who can help me, and I will get that person for you, and we're going to work together, because we don't have time to waste, and people value that. They value honesty like that, and humility too. And I think that's, again, stuff that just comes with having done this for so long.
Right.
Like, when you're young, you just, maybe you don't have that skill set yet. So I love that sensitivity component and stuff like that. So
yeah. And you are so good about that, about saying, like, this is my lane, but I know somebody in this lane, and this lane that we can bring in to bring this whole pie together. Right. So you're amazing at that. And you're really communicative with people, and you're always so friendly and so upbeat. And it is always such a joy to work with you. So I don't know how much time we have left, but how can people get a hold of you? So if they have more questions about this PR piece and media relations, and they are just completely demystified, like completely confused by it, but they want to demystify the whole thing.
I love it.
How can they reach you?
Well, so I'm on LinkedIn, but Tina Menditto, and dare I give my phone number out? Dare I do that? 305-546-3289. My website's under construction for 2021. So check back in 2021 and it will be new and different. But for now, you can definitely call me, get me on LinkedIn, Tina at the Menditto and I'd love to help you with your PR and marketing needs, whatever they may be.
Yeah. So I think the producer's going to get that email address up on the screen really quickly so you guys can jot it down. But again, I want to thank Tina so much for being here today. There's so many more questions. We could talk about this for on and on. Literally, we started working together, I think it was like 15 years ago. Yeah. So we've been so long. It's so crazy. So, but I want to thank you, and I'd love to have you on a guest again in the future you can kind of keep us updated on these different things that are going on. So this diversified marketing, how do we apply that? What do we do with it? And maybe even talking about kind of really looking at the pie and how do we put that together, get a little more in depth on that perhaps. So I would love to have you back.
And
thank
you for having me.
Of course. So we have her email address up on the screen. Go ahead and write that down. And I want to thank you guys for being here again for another Marketing Monday. I want to thank Tina for being here. Anything else that we didn't talk about that is just burning inside you. You got to get out before.
Just stay humble, stay true to yourself, and 2021 is going to be a better year for everyone.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Stay true to yourself, stay humble, because at the end of the day, that's really all you have control over, right? So, all right. So thank you guys again for being here. I want to wish everybody a very, very happy holidays. When we return with our show, we're going to talk about 2021 trends that you need to be aware of. So stay tuned for the next episode on that. And again, happy holidays, blessings to you and your family. Thanks for being here.